Welcome to the True Demon Lord Show. I am, of course, the True Demon Lord Franco, and today we're going to be looking at the Plague Legion Plague of Woes stratagem. So, in my opinion, Plague Legion is very, very good. I think people are starting to realize now how good it is. Um, and obviously, the power in it is the battle shocks, but also just the disruption you can cause into your opponent's units and your opponent's lines. And in my opinion, one of the most important things when playing Plague Legion is some of the stratagems. Most specifically, I think Plague of Woes is very, very important. I possibly think it is, if not the most important strat, definitely one of the most, if not the second most. And I do think Plague of Woes is very strong when used properly. Now, thing is with Plague of Woes is I find people play it wrong. I have played against a person that played it wrong when I played against someone running Plague Legion a while back. And I've seen people, I know people who played against it who they said they played it wrong, blah blah blah. So I'm going to not just kind of hammer home the point of how it's used, whether you're playing against it or whether you're playing using it, but also just how best to use it. We've set up some scenarios, and we're just going to give you a few examples. So, firstly, before we do get into that, if you like what we do here on the channel, then please leave a like and subscribe. It helps the channel grow massively. And if you really like what we do and you want to further support and get some extra little bit of tactical content, then consider becoming a true Denizen member here on YouTube. So, Plague of Woes, you use it in your opponent's command phase, but before selecting any targets for your Melancholic Miasma ability. Now, your Melancholic Miasma abilities, that's your detachment rule, and that allows you once every command phase, yours and your opponent's, you pick one unit that is currently in your army Shadow of Chaos, which in Plague Legion, 9 inches of any Nurgle unit is within your Shadow of Chaos for opponent's units. As well as just natural shadows of chaos. Um, and then they have to take a have to take a battle shock test. So there's specific trigger. You use it in your command phase, but before you choose any unit for the melancholic miasma detachment rule. So I've seen people I guess this is kind of to stop you going, cool, use it. Oh, you passed it. Okay, let's try another one. Like you've got to kind of preemptively think about it. I have played against someone that just did it, did the melancholic miasma, and then decided I'm gonna, because you passed that one, I'm gonna see if I can try and deny primary over here instead with it. And that's when you're like, no, 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 you don't get to see. Like you've now gained information that you wouldn't through this stratagem. So yes, you need to make sure you're declaring it before you declare any other unit for your melancholic miasma rule. You select one of your Nurgle demon units, and then until the end of the phase, after an enemy unit takes a battle shock test as a result of your melancholic miasma detachment rule. So you use a stratagem, select one of your Nurgle units, then pick your first melancholic miasma target. After they've taken the battle shock test, you can pick another enemy unit within 9 inches of your selected Nurgle unit, and now they take a battle shock test. So you use it in your command phase, your opponent's command phase, not yours, only your opponent. So that's another one. I have heard people use it wrong. You can't use it in your command phase. You can only use it in your opponent's command phase. You use the stratagem and pick a Nurgle demon unit on the battlefield before you use the melancholic miasma rule. You then pick your first target for your melancholic miasma as you normally would within your Shadow of Chaos. They take a battle shot test. Then after that unit has taken a battle shot test, you select one unit within 9 inches of your selected Nurgle Demon unit, and now they have to take a battle shock test. So there is a very specific order of how to do it, but long and short of it is double battle shock test in your opponent's command phase. Now that is strong for a number of reasons. You see, we've set up a battle here, Nurgle Demons versus Orcs. Now, let's say the most obvious way to do this is to try and double deny primary. So let's just, for this example, quickly say this is one unit of 10 knobs and one unit of 10 boys here. Our opponent is currently getting, let's ignore this over here for now. Our opponent is currently getting, let's say, 8 points of primary or 10 points of primary, whatever the mission is, and we want to stop that. So we then play Plague of Woes. We select this Nurgle, this Plague Bearer unit as our target for Plague of Woes. Then for our melancholic miasma, we are going to select this unit because they are within 9 inches of our Nurgling unit at the moment. So they are currently within our army Shadow of Chaos. They take a battle shot test. Now, if they fail it, it's like, cool. Now we have a chance to deny both of these objectives. And then they take one over here. If they pass it, it's like, okay, we still have another chance to deny some primary points at least. So this allows you to basically deny primary points without throwing too many units out in the open, or at least forcing your opponents to have to come get units, because now they have to come through the wall to deal with the Nurglings, come over here to deal with the Plague Bearers, and if they're battle shot, they're losing, utility through stratagems, which is quite nice. They're also losing OC, which is also very, very nice. Um, the other way, like actually saying that, I'm going to show you, that's another example we'll show you in a minute. I can say another way is if we've got models on the objective as well, but we're literally going to show you that in a minute. So yeah, that's basically the most simple way of doing it. Another way to do it, like if your opponent draws, say, containment, and they've only got two, or cleanse, like this literally shows cleanse, and they've only got these two units, and they've got other units that probably want to go out and shoot or want to go out and do damage. So you can do, you can either force them to have to use other units they had other plans for to now have to do actions, because you've gone, cool, these two units you were going to use to do actions or could do actions quite easily now can't do actions because they're OC0. So now you're going to have to use some of these units you were going to use to shoot me or charge me or get into other positions, now having to do that. If your opponent has a unit close by that is basically going to just jump on an objective and deny you points or multiple, boom, boom. If they've got two units that can jump on one objective, you hit them with this, now they can't do it. Or they have to send again another unit, which might mess up their plans. If your opponent draws containment and they've only really got two units that can do containment, you can go, cool, I'm now seeing what your cards are. I'm going to use Plague of Woes. I'm going to use that, choose this target, choose that target. One or both fail, you go, cool, you've got less points on containment, or you've got no points on containment. So you can use this to deny two sets of primary from your opponent, or deny two potential sets of secondaries, or forcing your opponent to have to send another unit to do an action or go to an objective to go take that objective. You can potentially stop your opponent being able to deny your primary. So there's loads of uses here by just having that double tap is really nice. It also gives you some redundancy. So if you want to just deny any primary points, being able to double tap two objectives and then, being like, cool, as long as they can fail one of these, that's good for me. If they fail both, that's a bonus. Now, another cool thing here is this is now no longer a unit of 10 knobs, it is 2 units of 5. They've come on, they've killed, I don't know, play barriers, maybe finished off a grand clean one. They're both here. Or maybe we charged on, wasn't able to get through them. Either way, there is 2 units of 5 knobs sitting on this objective. We have the Sloppity Bile Piper, who has the Canker Blight enhancement. The Canker Blight enhancement allows you, or anytime an enemy unit within 6 inches of this model fails a battle shot test, um, instead of losing models, instead of taking D3 mortal wounds for failing a battle shock test in your Shadow of Chaos, you can instead choose for that unit to just lose a model as long as it's not a monster or a vehicle. So maybe we just want to try and lessen these units, not just by, knocking the OC, but also killing them. So we could, this would work even better on one wound units. Let's say in this case, Grot, but if you had like GSC or like Demon Infantry, stuff like that. But in this case, we've got 2 units of knobs. They fail both battle shot tests, they lose 2 dudes. But let's say this was like 2 units of one wound infantry. You're probably not going to then care about the Bile Piper. Instead, you're going to probably knock off just use the D3. But if this is like, say, a more elite unit, let's say it's a unit of Custody Bikes or a unit of 3 Fiends, just killing one of those each is a lot of value gone from the unit. A unit of 3 trying to think 8 bound, stuff like that. So yeah, it's another cool way to get more use out of your Canker Blight on your Bile Piper or whatever character you've got it on, but most likely the Bile Piper because he's the best one to have it on. Being able to not just double battle shock 2 units, but being able to then just instantly remove high profile Like, again, you're going to be doing this on units that are full of 3, 4, 5 win models that are very valuable. Like I said, custodies of any type, um, things like blade guard, aggressors, centurions, fiends, um, abominants. Not the non-count, whatever the abominant is, the unit version of that. Oh god, I forgot what the name is. Are they abominants? Aberrants, that's it, for Gene Seed Assaults. So yeah, just a nice way to kind of get more bang for your buck from your Ganker Blight by just double battle shocking. And then the last example we have is overturning primary, again turning off primary. Sorry, for your opponent, but in this case we have denying on the point rather than just doing it there. And let's say this might be either the only point they have, or let's say they've got multiple units on the other points, and you're like, okay, the chances of them, I'm just not going to be able to take that off them, but here I have a chance. So, um, in this case, we have 11 OC from a Ground Clean one and 3 Plague Bearers, whereas they have 14 OC from 4 Knobs and 5 Orc Boys. So we can just frock Plague of Woes, choose, say, the Ground Clean one, and then as a fail safe, go cool. I will put it on the boys because they've got the more OC, like the original one. If they fail it, they're losing D3, and now the point is not theirs anymore because you out OC them. But if they pass it, then you're putting it on the boys and having it on the knobs and having a second chance to try and deny it. Now, this only works if, um, you know, let's say there was 7 boys on the point. Even if the knobs failed their battle shock test, the 7 boys passed it, they would then still hold the point. But so that in that case you wouldn't waste it. You would just put it on the boys, unless you just wanted to try and kill a knob with with the shadow, buff, maybe also just knocking off, utility from the unit by taking away stratagem use, taking away OC anyway, just so later in the turn you can then flip it back for yourself. If your opponent is probably going to fall a unit back, that's another one. If your opponent wants to probably say they've got fall back and charge, and so they're going to fall back in and charge back in, so you don't hit them first, you can then use Plague of Woes. So if that is a stratagem, now that's 2 units that can't do it. But if it's not a stratagem and it's just an ability, and they can do that, now they have to take a desperate escape test because they're battle shocked, and obviously dying on 1s and 2s. If you had some fiends or some bloodletters in your Plague Legion list, which have a rule that when enemy units fall back from them, they have to take a desperate escape test as long as they're not monsters or vehicles. And if they are battle shot, they take -1 to that test. So now they're dying on models are dying in that unit on 1, 2s, and 3s. So let's say we have some Plague Bearers here, some bloodletters here, or some fiends double tagged. And your opponent's going to want to fall back because they don't want to take the punch first. You just go cool, Plague of Woes, both units now have to take battle shot test. Oh, both units fail. Cool. They run away. They die on 1, 2s, and 3s. Yes, that could then knock them out of combat, meaning they can now charge them for free. But you've also killed a lot more models, meaning the unit will be easy to deal with and potentially do less damage. Another thing to keep an eye on for Plague of Woes is obviously if you are picking one of your Nurgle units and you've got your eye on one unit, but let's say that's just as a failsafe. For example, let's say it's this, right? And let's say our opponent has another unit here, or the unit is like this or something like that. So then now they're within 9 of the Ground Clean one. You could go, okay, I've got 2 units in, I want to do this trick, but obviously the Plague Bearers are only within 9 of these 2 units, not within 9 of this knob unit over here. But the Ground Clean one is within 9 of all of it. So now you go, cool. I'm going to pick the Ground Clean one as my Plague of Woe target, and then I will make the boys take a battle shock test. Oh, they failed it. Cool. I no longer need to battle shock this unit of knobs now. I will instead put the battle shock from Plague of Woes on that unit. Oh, they failed. Cool. They're just going to lose a model because of now they're OC0 over here, and they're going to lose a model because we had the Bile Piper over here, whatever. So you can see, like, when you're using Plague of Woes, sometimes you might not have a choice. Like, it might just, in this case, if there was no other units around it, and then this unit failed, but like, okay, I'm just going to be able to do some extra damage on it. But maybe sometimes when picking your units, think, okay, if I'm using this maybe as a failsafe just to battle shock one of these 2 units. If the first one fails, I no longer need to battle shock this unit. Maybe my unit here is still within 9 of stuff over here. Now I can maybe battle shock something over here. So again, I think something that is very important with Plague Legion is you have to think when it comes to the battle shocks is because we've got multiple stratagems, multiple abilities, plus the detachment rule that cause battle shocks. So you need to be thinking on your toes, because this is how you win your games, by battle shocking your opponents, by trying to, nullify the utility of their units through turning them to OC0, preventing them from using key stratagems. For example, here, pull back and shoot and charge, or whatever. Um, Another one, if you're against Imperial Guards, being able to, I think, do they have to, if they're battle shocked, can they have? I can't remember. I'm not sure if they're battle shocked, can they still have orders put on them or not? But like tactical brigade for orcs, after they do their like abilities, where they pick their abilities to give their units, if they become battle shocked, they lose them on that unit. So that's another good way. So if your opponent either has abilities that they would lose, or buffs that they would lose for being battle shocked, or buffs that cannot go on them because they are battle shocked, that's another reason to potentially double tap a unit with Plague of Woes, because now you're having a chance to put 2 units away from having good buffs. So yeah, Plague of Woes is very good for just preventing multiple units from holding objectives, or preventing multiple units from doing actions, either stopping your opponent from getting secondary points, or forcing them to have to use important units that were going to do other jobs to do it. Um, you know, Overturning OC on objectives, so your opponent then can't control it, and preventing units from either getting buffs or benefiting from buffs, etc., etc. So Plague of Woes is a very strong stratagem when used properly, and is very important when using Plague Legion, in my opinion. I think it is one of your key stratagems that you want to be using almost every turn when you can. So hopefully you can take from that, you can take some of these examples, use them in your games when using Plague Legion. If you do and they work, please let me know. I always love hearing how people get on when they're using my tips and tricks. And yeah, just have fun with it, because Plague Legion is super, super fun. And we will be doing, a bit of a list building um video talking about how best to go about building a list and what to really run for Plague Legion in the very near future, in the next couple weeks probably. So stay tuned for that. And thank you for tuning in. We will catch you all in the next one.